In this movie, we'll go ahead and scale this star because after all, it would be magnified by the glass. And we'll also add this circular red field. And along the way, I'll introduce you to the group isolation mode. All right, so I'm going to start things off by turning off smart guides. Notice that every time I move my cursor around, I'm flashing somewhere. And after a while, that gets a little irritating. And besides, because I'm done drawing, I don't need the smart guides anymore. So I'll go up to the View menu and choose Smart Guides. Or, if you want to, you can memorize that keyboard shortcut of Control-U here on the PC or Command-U on the Mac. All right, now I'll go ahead and switch over to our document at hand. And I'll click on the central star right there, and I'll press Control-C or Command-C on the Mac in order to copy it to the clipboard. Now I'm going to create a new layer by dropping down to the little page icon at the bottom of the Layers panel, and I'll Alt-click on it or Option-click on the Mac. In order to bring up the Layer Options dialog box, I'll go ahead and call this new layer Lone Star, and I'll change its color to violet. And then I'll click OK to make that new layer. All right, now just go ahead and deselect this star by going up to the Select menu and choosing the Deselect command, or you have that keyboard shortcut of Control-Shift-A or Command-Shift-A on the Mac. And the reason we're doing that is otherwise, when we choose Paste in Front, Illustrator would paste the new star directly in front of the old star on that star's layer. We want it to appear on the new layer instead. And to make that happen, click on the Layers panel flyout menu icon and just make sure Paste Remembers Layers is turned off. It is by default. We don't want it on. It should not have a check mark. In which case, we could now just go ahead and press Control-F or Command-F on the Mac in order to paste in front. And if you see violet-colored points and segments around your star, then you know you've done everything exactly right. All right, now I want to fill the star with white, so I'll go up to this first swatch in the Control panel, click on it, and then select white from the swatches list. And now let's say that you want to scale this star. Well, one way to scale is to click on the word Transform to bring up the Transform panel. And then instead of specifying a width value in points, go ahead and set this value to something like 130%, let's say, so you can actually dial in percent. And then when you press the Tab key, you'll enlarge the size of your star. And you'll translate that value back into points here inside the Transform panel. But that may or may not be exactly the size you're looking for. What if you do want an exact size? You want to make sure that the points of the stars are tucking all the way under this rim of the magnifying glass. In that case, you're better off scaling with a stroke. And to do that, I'll go ahead and press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac to undo the most recent change. And I'll click in the second swatch in the Control panel and change the color of the swatch to white so that it matches the fill. And then I'll go ahead and click on this down pointing arrowhead and I'll choose, let's say, 10 points for the line weight, which is good, but obviously not good enough. And so to play around here, to get a sense for how things are working on the fly, go ahead and click on that line weight value and then press the up arrow key. And I'm going to press and hold the key until those points start to come out the other side of the ring around the magnifying glass. And then once I've gone too far, which I have, I'll press the down arrow key in order to reduce that stroke value. And I ended up coming up with a line weight value right there of 36 points, which produces the effect you're seeing on screen now. At which point I'll press the Enter key or the Return key on the Mac in order to apply that change. All right, now I want to fill the area inside the ring with red, and that means that I need to create a circle that's the same size as the ring. And so what I'd like to do is click on this circle, not this one actually. This is the shadow underneath the ring. I want this shape right here, I guess. But the problem is that it's a compound shape that's filled with white, and so that's not going to do me any good. And so what I need to do is get one of these circles independently of the other. And I can do that. I can access one of these shapes by entering the group isolation mode. And to do that, I'll first undo that move. And then what you do is you double click on the selected item. And that's going to give you this effect here where everything but that thing you double clicked on is dimmed and you can't get to it anymore. You may have already experienced that as you've been working in Illustrator. It's very easy to double click on something. I'll just go ahead and press the escape key here to escape out. And notice I could just go ahead and click on this star and accidentally double click on it. And I'm all of a sudden in the one star, it's just a path isolation mode, which is crazy because there's no reason to isolate a single path, but it does happen inside Illustrator. And if this happens to you and you're sitting there scratching your head, wondering how to get out, just press the escape key, and that will take you back to your artwork. But what we want to do, I'm just going to close this little toolbar, by the way, to get rid of it, because it's going to get in the way in just a moment. What I want to do is access these two circles independently. So I'm going to double click on this ring to enter the group isolation mode. Even though we're not working with a group, we're working with a compound path. But what it means is I can now click on this outer circle to select it independently, like so. Or I can click on the inner circle to select it independently. And that's what I want. So I'll go ahead and click on the inner circle, and then I'll go up to the edit menu and choose the copy command. Or of course, you can just press Control or Command C in order to copy it to the clipboard. Now notice that we're seeing essentially the path to our current selection. So we're sitting here inside the compound path, which itself is located inside the angled layer. And so I could click on that layer in order to switch back so I just have the layer isolated. In other words, I can gain access to the entire magnifying glass, but I can't select any of the stars in the background. Or, as I was saying before, if you just want to get all the way out, you press the escape key, and that takes you out of the isolation mode. All right, now what you want to do is click on the star in order to select it, and we this time want to put the circle in back of it. So as opposed to going to the edit menu and choosing paste in front, we are this time going to choose paste in back, which is another old school command, which is why it has such a great keyboard shortcut of Control B for back or Command B on the Mac. And although we can't really see it, this white shape is in back of the star, which will become entirely evident as soon as we change its fill by clicking on the first swatch up here in the control panel and selecting this shade of red, which is R193, G39, B45, which ends up producing this effect right here. At which point, I'll just go ahead and click off the path in order to deselect it. And that's how you scale a shape with a stroke, as well as copy a shape that's trapped inside of a compound path using the group isolation mode.